Hello, everybody, and welcome to this episode of the Leafs Line Podcast. I am your host, Mary Russo. I'm joined by Evan Davis, Jared Rotenberg, and Adam Romoli. And today's really all about talking Kyle Dubas' cellular phone, the context that are within it, and just the amount of calls and service that this guy's paying for, because he will not hang up the phone. He will make the deals as fast as they come. That's kind of been the headline stories on this Tuesday, February 28th. Lots of trades from Kyle Dubas, and we haven't talked since his first trade, the big one that kind of opened the spew and the floodgates for the Toronto Maple Leafs, the Ryan O'Reilly one. Today, we're just going to be talking about last couple of trades the Leafs have made, and really including the ones that we saw today, because a lot of food for thought, especially ahead of the deadline. There's still a lot of time ticking on that clock that he could still make moves. Is Kyle Dubas even done? That's the big question that everyone's thinking. And if you were, everyone's kind of saying the same thing too. It's absolutely not. This guy, he understands, and I think that's the big point that I think we're all going to make with these trades, is that whether you like him or not, he's doing his best to actually put this position in a legitimate situation to win. And that we've seen trade deadlines before where they've come and gone. We've seen deals that have really bite him in the butt, especially that Nick Foligno one that just always chimes in my mind for the wrong reasons. But this year it feels a little different, guys, if I'm not mistaken. Like, do you guys feel a different energy that he's presenting? And is this have anything to do, before we get into the trades, does this have anything to do with him possibly being in his last year as a Toronto Maple Leafs GM? Like, you feel the pressure,
100%.
the heat's rising up to your butt cheeks, and you really want to get off that chair,
100%.
or you want to sit on it and maybe even put some cool down one on there. So, guys, is this just Kyle Dubas in his last year? Is the desperation one saying, let's put all the chips in the middle? I'm done playing games. I'm done being conservative. Let's get the engine going. Evan, I'll start with you, man. Like, we've seen Kyle Dubas. You've been on the show for a while. We've been doing the show for a while. We've seen the evolution of the Maple Leafs. Like, is this just feel different?
Yeah, I mean, it's an honor to be picked first to answer this question.
I really pick you first of all.
Yeah,
so
I know.
Here's your bone.
It's such an look. I do feel like this is different, and I agree with you 100%. This has to do with the fact that Kyle Dubas is in the final year. I highly doubt this is his final year, because now I think all the pressure goes onto the coaching staff. Sheldon Keefe, Manny Malhotra, the list goes on. If they can't get it done, I wouldn't be surprised if a full house is cleaned. Just like, if you guys couldn't do it, we're going to find someone else, because Dubas has done what he needed to do. We'll dissect all the trades, but I think he hit a home run on all of them. The Sandin one, we'll wait and see. I highly doubt that first round pick is kept in their hands. I don't see a need for Boston's 31st pick or whatever. It becomes a late first. But no, this was Kyle Dubas saying, I'm not taking any crap from anyone else. I've done my job. It's on Sheldon Keefe and the rest of the players as well. Yeah. Players are going to be held accountable if they can't get it done. But the leadership, too, that he brought in, I'll let you guys speak on that. But I think the leadership he brought in with Luke Schenn and Ryan O'Reilly will be great for them.
And we'll talk about Ryan O'Reilly, Luke Schenn, and you also mentioned Rasmus Sandin. We'll talk about those in just a minute. But I do want to connect this, and I rarely go on Twitter. It's weird because sports media students love going on Twitter. I've actually tamed that addiction, which is amazing. But I go on it every so often, and I saw, Adam Romoli, a tweet from you, and it really caught my eye
today.
Yeah, I don't even know if it was today. I think it might have been a couple of days ago. I don't know. But you wrote this thing, and it really struck with me about how, like, Kyle Dubas, it feels like if they don't, with the moves they're making now, if they don't win this year, if they don't advance, something's up. Like, there's a curse or something. Like, they're too good. I don't know how you put it, but in the words of, they're too good not to advance. Like, this team is.
I think I said,
I don't have a word for word.
If any team's going to do it, if this team can't do it, no one will.
Exactly. There we go. And that really struck a chord, because if you look at first of all, the center depth on this team, which we'll discuss with the Ryan O'Reilly bringing him in. If you go look at the defensive depth now with a bunch of trades that they've made, it continuously starts feeling that exact same message. Like, what do you make of Kyle Dubas, him kind of going all in? I know you've always been the advocate for screw the picks, throw them out the window, or throw them to any team that wants to take them as part of a big deal. And that's kind of what he's been gravitating to. So what are your thoughts on the way he's approaching this? And will we be seeing it kind of explode on the trade deadline?
I'm actually a big fan of the additions Kyle Dubas has made. They're getting playoff ready. Like, he's kind of reconstructing this roster, and like, it's weird. Like, it almost feels like he's the guy negotiating the trades, but it doesn't feel like he's the only one behind the trades, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? Like, Like, getting
I
rid
don't
of
feel like
Pierre
his kind of
Engvall.
trades.
Yeah, no, like getting rid of Pierre Engvall really surprised me. I'm not gonna
I
lie.
didn't think
I
it was in
thought
him. I didn't think he'd
I
be able to do
didn't
it.
think
Even
he'd
the
move one of his
Sandine one
roster
as
guys.
well.
Yeah,
Like
Sandine,
his
like that.
baby, Marley's, watch him come
Yeah.
up. That's what I've been feeling too. It's very similar.
Yeah, it honestly it doesn't feel like these are Dubas moves, but the trades themselves I think are fine. I love what they're doing. You guys know me. I'm, go all in.
Mhm.
Trade your picks. They're mystery boxes. So yeah, I'm a big fan.
Yeah. And I mean, Jared, I remember we talked about this a while ago. I don't even know if you remember this, but I remember when the Leafs blueprint, or not the Leafs blueprint, the documentary on the Amazon came out, and that last scene, that pivotal last scene of it's just two players on the board, kind of feels like, not that he's looking at it and how to replace some of those core players, but really just building and putting pieces around them that's going to make them thrive once playoff time comes. Like, what do you make of Kyle Dubas' decision to, I guess, in a way, go all in this sense? If this is even what we're considering going all in, he still might have a big trade up his sleeve that insinuates the actual definition of going on in, just losing it all on a specific player. But what are your thoughts on the way he's approaching the deadline, and what do you think we're going to see from that trade deadline?
I absolutely love what he's doing so far. I mean, you guys know me, whereas the Damo maybe is a little bit more pessimistic about this Leafs team. I love the core and I love the top guys and I believe in them. But Dubas recognized that he needs to build a deep core, and really, I think that's the definition of what I kind of describe this deadline as. He's going for depth. Obviously, Ryan O'Reilly is a big name. He's a star, and he right now at least is playing on the top six. But the fact that it gives us the ability to play him potentially as a third line center at some point, it just makes our team deeper as well. The other moves he's making, getting Nola Chari, Sam Lafferty, these are bottom six depth guys, and the whole point seems to be to make us a deeper team, to make us a more competitive team on both our offensive core and our defensive core, and really just ensure that we could take on a team like the Tampa Bay Lightning. And once we get through them, we're not going to have an easier time. So he's really making sure that all these guys are deep enough, strong enough all throughout our lineup, and they're guys that could take us far. And even, I'd say, not as much in the first two moves he made, but more importantly in the more recent ones he's made. It's really, especially today, it really seems like he's starting to prioritize getting bigger and stronger and getting guys like Luke Shen. He's the NHL's hit leader right now. Like, he's getting a lot of guys that are going to fill the mantra of the bruiser type team, which really the Leafs didn't have a reputation for having a few years ago. But right now he's going for defensive help and depth, but really he's making us a tougher team to play.
And to think for a long period of time, especially in this year and the offseason that preceded it, all the trades involving Kyle Dubas' name involved those core players that we were kind of discussing, especially extremely right after that playoff loss to the Tampa Bay Lightning. Trade these guys, trade the core, Marner out, Nylander's got to get the boots. That's where the core four kind of circulated with Kyle Dubas. And now it kind of feels like, in a sense, kind of how I'm going to segue it to the Ryan O'Reilly deal. I would honestly consider, and this is, it's a stretch because they still have contract negotiations to do, and those are a really big deal. But like this guy, he can become a legitimate side piece, if you will, of this core group of players, the top six
Absolutely.
group of players. He is.
Yeah.
I love what he's bringing to the team.
This could be a core five.
Yeah, and like he's putting the puck in the back of the net. He's got the chemistry with Tavares already. I don't know if that's a 90s number kind of thing, but he's already connecting with him a bunch. He's fitting nicely on that second line. And I mean, I wouldn't be totally opposed if I were to see him on that first one either, just to try it out. But that's the beauty about him. You could slot him anywhere and you can get it done. And let's talk about the Ryan O'Reilly trade right now. He arrived in Toronto, I believe, last week. I was actually at a subway station and I got the alert. And I was caught in my mind. I didn't know how to react. We're getting Ryan O'Reilly with the best nickname in the NHL, Roar, which is speaks for itself, yells for itself. But St. Louis Blues, they traded their captain along with Noel Achari to the Maple Leafs in exchange for a 2023 first round pick, a 2024 second rounder, a 2023 third round pick, which is from Ottawa, Mikhail Abramov, and Adam Gaudette. And the thing about O'Reilly that makes this thing just the icing on the cake, 25%, he's retained an additional 25% from the Wild, and I believe, he's only
50%
making
50% for the Blues.
Yeah, 50%. So
we're only paying 25% of his salary.
Yeah, exactly, and that would be the equivalent to $1.875 million with those retainments. So I know this is a while back, and we've gotten. Usually, it's best to do these trades before we see them in a blue and white uniform. But we got to see how the car kind of test drives itself, and I know a lot about that because I bought my car today. So
you need one of those.
Yeah, I got one today. So nice. We got the
Oh, yeah?
first back. We got it done. Had to take a big
There you
drive.
go.
But test drives, I got to know about them. We saw a test drive of Ryan O'Reilly. What are your thoughts on the test drive and more so just the trade in general? Because there's a lot going the other way to St. Louis. There's a lot, not even a lot going to Minnesota, but they're retaining the salary. There's a lot of moving
They get a
pieces
pick.
in this deal. Evan, I'll go with you. What are your thoughts on the Ryan O'Reilly deal? And I know we've only seen it in a couple
Twice?
games, but how is it?
Yeah.
How is it?
I'm feeling
How's it
myself
impacted the
tonight,
Maple Leafs?
boys.
See, you're getting the first ones. I gotta go strong with you.
I'm feeling good tonight,
It's
man.
don't forget. If I'm going first to you, sure, take it as a privilege, but it's also I don't want to hear you for the next 3 turns. So take it as you may.
Yeah, I mean, the Ryan O'Reilly trade. At first, I thought it was just like an insane amount. Like I thought it was kind of an
Very
overpay.
overwhelming at first.
Just given the fact that he has had a very underwhelming year, at least offensively. I know the Blues as a whole haven't been that great. Offensively, he had that hat trick against Buffalo, but I don't know if he's scored since. I could be wrong. I don't know if he's registered a point since, but
in 2 games.
Regardless,
Is he washed? Is O'Reilly washed?
Is O'Reilly washed? No, I don't know. But I can't remember who tweeted it, but I saw a tweet about like the Leafs 4 centers and like all of them are above 50%, which is honestly all you really need from Ryan O'Reilly. I think anything he gives you is a bonus, and we saw that he could skate with a guy like Mitch Marner, which honestly was my fear, just given his age and the fact that Marner goes at light speed. But we've seen that he can play with Marner and Tavares. I'd be curious to see if he's a third-line center in the playoffs. The way that it's shaping up seems like he would remain in the top 6, but I don't know. I think it's looking like a great trade right now. I assume it translates in the playoffs, just given O'Reilly's resume. So I think overall good.
Yeah, this is a playoff pick, guys. I mean, I don't know how else to just argue it. This guy was brought in for games 1 to 7, if it even goes that way, because he's just so effective in the postseason. I'm just looking at the stats now. He won the Conn Smythe with the Blues, and he kind of led the way too. 23 points in 26 playoff games. Got the Stanley Cup. And hopefully it's going to be a second blue and somewhat white uniform. Who knows? But like the underlying numbers behind this guy are outstanding. I'm sure you've already looked into them deeply, Adamo. And well, he's always finishing top 5 or so in the Selke voting. So like he's kind of the complete package. And I don't even think this is considered giving up everything for this guy too. And you also get Nola Cherry. He's not even just a throw-in. He's a serviceable depth player.
Great ad. Great ad.
Jared, I'll go to you. Like thoughts on the deal. And I mean, is this like one of the bigger players? We've seen the Nick Foligno deal where that was what we before considered the playoff pick for the playoffs. Is this just blows that one out of the water and this is a legit playoff player that you're grabbing?
Absolutely. I mean, I will say this is the biggest biggest deadline move I've seen the Leafs make in my time as a fan. I know on the STP, they basically said it's the biggest trade at the deadline the Leafs have made since 2004 when they got Brian Leetch. And it seems pretty accurate because I don't remember any trade bigger than this. It is a massive addition. And as Evan said, we did give up a lot for it. And obviously there is some risk. But at the end of the day, like Adamo said, and I'm a big guy where I don't like giving away prospects and whatever, but this is the team you have. This is the team you have to go all in with it because it's never going to be as good as it is right now. So I love the fact that we gave up all that, but we didn't even give up any of our biggest name prospects, and we got a Conn Smythe winner. But not only that, he's also a former Selke winner. He's a fantastic guy. Fantastic face-off, man. I mean, in 5 games, so it's not sustainable. But in his first 5 games as a Leaf, he has a 75% face-off rating. Like, he has won basically 3 out of 4 face-offs that he's taken. He's been unbelievable at the face-off dot. He's been a fantastic addition. And as well, Nola Cherry has really shored up our 4th line, playing alongside Zach Aston Reese for a lot of it. And he has made that line fantastic. Again, I don't know the exact advanced stats, but I saw something that basically said every time it's been on the ice, it has shut things down completely, which is exactly what you brought him in for. It has been fantastic. And those 2 players are guys that absolutely, you would think at least, are guys that could put the Leafs over the edge in the playoffs. And it's hard to picture right now, considering how close we were against Tampa last year. Now that we added Ryan O'Reilly and Nola Cherry, as well as some other guys we added later, I don't know how you pick Tampa as the favorite in that series anymore. Like, I'll go out and say that Ryan O'Reilly joining the top 6 is I genuinely am. And you guys know at the beginning of the season, I said Tampa's winning the cup. And I'm really second guessing even my first round pick right now, considering the fact that Ryan O'Reilly joined this team. I really think this is a move that puts the Leafs over the edge.
I agree with Jared. I think the Leafs are, I think after today, the Leafs are a lot better than what they were last year against Tampa.
I think today made the Leafs worse than they were yesterday, but that's for the
next
part,
segment,
right?
the later segment of the show. But I mean, again, with trades, picks are a big priority for a lot of teams. We do have till Friday, but picks
that's why I'll reserve judgment.
Yeah, a lot of picks get moved around the trade deadline. Obviously, they're they've continuously gotten more of a prized possession in the league, if you will, especially when the drafts are getting that much more deeper. Don Romola, you've never really cared about these things. Picks are nothing to me, as I said twice or three times already in the show. What are your thoughts on the stuff going to St. Louis and of course to Minnesota as well in this Ryan O'Reilly deal? Was it a really all chips in move and you're pushing everything towards the St. Louis Blues, or was this like you're content with what they gave up and the curtains kind of match the drapes in this one?
Honestly, I know we're talking about the O'Reilly deal, but I think in general, Kyle Dubas has overpaid for guys, and I think Ryan O'Reilly is no different. But that doesn't mean it's a bad trade or it's a bad ad. There's a difference between, you know what I'm saying? Like Ryan O'Reilly is a fantastic addition. Yeah, Tanner Jeannot, that's a great addition for the Tampa Bay Lightning. That is a perfect guy for them. They overpaid, but you got the guy you want. Like Brisebois said in his press conference, and I relate this back to the Leafs, your picks aren't going to help you win a cup this year. They're not going to win a cup next year. They're not going to help win you a cup the year after that. So if you're a winning team, you give up those picks, and that's exactly what they did. The O'Reilly trade, the McCabe trade, they give up a lot of picks. So no, yeah, I'm pretty on brand. I think this is a good trade. I think out of the five, I'd say this is Dubas's best trade. I think this is my favorite one that he made. Obviously, you going at a not superstar, but what once was a superstar. I'll say not many people win the Conn Smythe, so this was a great deal for Kyle Dubas.
And I mean, every time you kind of buy a blue chip stock like Ryan O'Reilly, who's always going to produce, and like there's very little chance that he dips. Obviously, injury plays a role in any player, and we saw interact with Nick Foligno, which was, in my opinion, before this deal, one of the better trades he made in the moment. We didn't know how it was going to evolve, and obviously, it went pretty bad. But no, I'm totally with you, man. Like this is one of the bigger trades he's made. I think it is the biggest trade he's made, and it's just so great to see that he's actually taking what the fan base wants, not wanting to be too conservative with these picks and not wanting to be too conservative in just the playoff hunt. If you look around you, Kyle Dubas opened his ears. He smelled the coffee and saw, hey, the Boston Bruins, they're doing what they got to do to win a cup. Oh, the Tampa Bay Lightning, they're overpaying to go get a player that they like, the perfect player that they like, and someone who fits their mold. I think one team, and we'll save this after the deadline when we do our all teams kind of show. Carolina Hurricanes so far are getting really caught in the dust, and that's really thankful for myself that I don't got to find the Leafs in that situation. So great on Kyle Dubas for making this deal. It's already looking great, and I'm sure it's going to continue to look even better. But I'm really interested to see how this deal that I'm about to mention looks, because there's a lot of uncertainty with it just because of the players and their kind of resumes coming back. And I just don't know how they're going to fit in too well, but we're going to have to wait and see. This is the one with the Chicago Blackhawks, Leafs acquiring Jake McCabe and Sam Lafferty and 2 conditional 5th round picks. McCabe, sorry. It's been
a long day
it has been a long day, long drives. The Maple Leafs, they send Joey Anderson, Pavel Gogolev. Oh, so it sounds exactly like it's written. Cool. That's rare. A conditional 2025 first round pick and a 2026 second round pick to Chicago. And Toronto's 2025 first round pick is top 10 protected. So that always works out well, right? This deal, I'm going to be honest with you, I haven't done too much research in it. It kind of caught me by surprise. There was so many moving parts in this deal, retention on the contract as well. So I guess we kind of have to wait and see how they produce in the Leafs uniform, because this is one of them, unlike the Ryan O'Reilly one where we haven't seen how the results show. But Adam, I'm going to go to you first because I'm going to change up the shuffle a little bit. Thoughts on the deal? I mean, you're getting the defenseman that the Leafs were kind of always rumored to come in and bring near the deadline. You're getting that, and you're getting a pretty damn good depth piece, really north and south, and loves to crash and bang a lot of people too. So really gritty. you kind of know what you're going to get from him.
Yeah.
You know, the points are going to be low, and you're going to just take the hit of it in the playoffs. And it's going to be a pretty interesting combination. But what do you think of the deal? Is this the right guy to go out and add? And I mean, it's kind of hard to say who's the right guy now, considering Kyle Dubas isn't even done making moves.
Yeah. Again, I think this was an overpay, but a necessary one. I don't care. It was an overpay. You traded away no one of relevance. Joey Anderson was never. He's not an NHL player. Probably will never be.
It's a terrific Toronto Marley. Terrific.
Sure. He could play in your fourth line. You know, sure, cool, whatever. He's an NPC. He is. I'm sorry. But yeah, you paid a first round pick. That's it. Like, what else did they give up? I couldn't even tell you.
And a second round pick in 2025 and 2026.
Right. Sorry, first and a second. Yeah. And you traded for like an is that like an 08? Like an 09? Who's getting drafted with that 2026 pick?
Who knows?
Well, something along those lines.
Yeah. So you're not really, again, nothing that you're giving up right now. A first round pick, maybe a little bit of an overpay for like probably a number 4, 5, maybe 3, 4, just like a middle pairing guy, and like a fourth liner. Like I don't want to hear the discourse about Sam Lafferty being this team's big addition. It was gonna be sick in the head reading Sam Lafferty's the guy. Sam Lafferty, we're gonna go after Sam Lafferty. Like, he's not just a throw-in that can skate really fast and penalty kill, which is a great ad as well. I will say this is a great, from an assets point. I think this and the St. Louis ones will probably like his two best.
Yeah, I'm wondering if we see, like, I know Achari got on a bit of the offensive action in his depth role. I doubt we'll see that from Lafferty, but I mean, who knows, right? The depth players are there for a reason. They're good there to match up against the other bottom six lines of other teams and put up a fight. And Sam Lafferty will definitely put up a fight. Jared, I'm gonna go to you, and then I'll end it off with Evan because I just really want to switch up this order. What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on? See, I told you. Yeah, I just don't want to come back to you for a while. What are your thoughts on the deal? And I mean, like, kind of, when you look at the trades that were made today, I don't know how that changes your perspective on the deal. We'll discuss that in a little bit, but just bare bones thoughts.
I really like it. So interestingly enough, the morning before this trade was made, it was made in the afternoon, but in the morning after class, me, Adamo, and friend of the show, Michael Nardi, were talking about Michael Nardi. I stumbled the words a little bit there. We were talking about the potential and the rumors of a Jake McCabe or a Sam Lafferty trade.
Oh, yeah.
And for both of those guys, it was pretty rumored that, a first-round pick would be involved. And at the time, I said, that sounds like a lot if you're getting one of them. But the fact that both were packaged together, I honestly like it. And the fact that it's only first-round picks traded in 2025 and 2026 that are not only 3 drafts or 4 drafts away from even being picked, that's another multiple years until they're actually going to be NHL ready. I'm more than willing to trade picks 3 years down the line for guys that are going to help us now. And the fact that these guys have term, I like a lot. The fact that Jake McCabe, we're going to have for 3 years, including this one. Like, at the end of this year, we're still going to have 2 full years of him. And as well, in the case of Sam Lafferty, we're going to have an extra year after this one for a relatively cheap cost. I mean, Jake McCabe, they're retaining him 50%, so we're only paying $2 million of his $4 million deal. That's absolutely very stomachable. And then in the case of Sam Lafferty, I believe his contract's only about $1.25-ish million. These are very stomachable contracts, and I'm very happy that we're acquiring both of them. I don't think either are fantastic. I was a little nervous, and that's the aspect that today kind of changed my thoughts of. When we paid so much for Jake McCabe, I was a little bit like, okay, where does this guy fit in? Because we have a lot of defensive depth. But the fact that, I mean, I am sad about losing Sandin, but the fact that he's gone, it does free up a space for McCabe to get into the lineup. And not only that, it showed that at practice today, he was practicing alongside TJ Brodin. So the fact that they're not only thinking of just slotting him into like a bottom, like a third line defensive pair, they're maybe even trying him out with some upper guys in the defensive unit. I like that a lot. And I think the fact that McCabe brings a lot of physicality and hitting ability, I don't think as a pure defenseman, he's the best defensive player in the world, but he is what he is. He's a physical guy that helps Dubas with the mold of making Toronto a harder team to play. And Lafferty does the same thing in terms of an offensive depth position where he slots into our third or fourth line, is quick, but also he's a physical guy. He could hit. He will play on a penalty killing position. And really, he's just another guy that makes our bottom 6 that much scarier and that much harder to play. So I like it a lot. And once again, the only prospects we gave up, Pavel Gogolev, he's playing in the ECHL right now. So as much as I have heard people say, oh, he has a bright future and has some skill, he wasn't cracking an NHL lineup anytime soon. And wish him all the best playing over in Chicago. Same thing goes for Joey Anderson. Both of these guys just didn't have a future with the Leafs. Wish them well in Chicago, but it wasn't going to happen here. So might as well package them up. They aren't big name prospects whatsoever. And Joey Anderson, I wouldn't even call a prospect. Give away a few picks that aren't going to crack an NHL lineup for another at least 5 years, I'd say. And you're getting two guys that today and for the next 2 years help you be a competitive team. So I really like this deal.
And you mentioned the word competitive near the end. Cal Dubas used the exact same word. This makes us a much more competitive team. Is that the best word to describe the impact of these players, or is there a better word that you could put in place to kind of show the impact? We're just going to have to wait and see what these players produce to give that actual word. Because competitive, I think, absolutely, but like skilled, not so much. I'm just kind of judging. I want to really see. That's what I'm really excited to see how these guys slot in. Number one, and number two, what they actually get done. I'm really interested to see the impact. Evan, I know we haven't seen them suit up in a Leafs uniform yet, but could you give maybe your crystal ball a little bit of a rub and say, and I'm going to emphasize the crystal ball a rub, give that one a rub, and tell me what we're going to see from these guys in the Leafs uniform.
Well, yeah, I don't think you're going to bring Jake McCabe in to be your bottom, like to be the sixth pairing defenseman or the fifth pairing defenseman. So I do think it does make sense to put him alongside TJ Brody. With Sam Lafferty, it just makes me question what the hell Alex Kerfoot is still doing in Toronto right now. I'm just surprised he's not hopping on a plane somewhere.
We'll get to that.
Because Sam Lafferty basically does everything Alex Kerfoot does for half the cost, like literally half the cost. So it just doesn't make sense to me why even Justin Hall is there when we're talking about Jake McCabe. I see no reason to keep Justin Hall, and I think Kyle Dubas quietly made that clear with the acquisition of Luke Shen. It's like, why do you need Luke Shen if you were so adamant about keeping Justin Hall? Just doesn't make sense to me. Wouldn't be surprised if Kerfoot, Hall, and that first that Boston gave them, that they have from Boston, are packaged in a deal to grab someone. Maybe a goaltender, who knows now that Matt Murray's on LTIR. But for Jake McCabe, I saw him in that game against the Leafs, and he had that one F up with William Nylander 8 seconds into the game. But I mean, other than that, he's a big body defenseman who's not afraid to get in front of a puck, and he doesn't make a stupid play except 8 seconds into a hockey game. So other than that, I can't see him functioning horribly in that lineup with TJ Brody, just given his defensive presence as well. Wouldn't be surprised to see him maybe with a guy like Morgan Rielly, but I would also not be surprised to see Morgan Rielly with Luke Shen kind of imitate the Quinn Hughes Luke Shen system that was going in Vancouver that honestly worked very, very well. But yeah, the Leafs have a lot to work with. Jake McCabe's a great asset. Sam Lafferty leads the NHL in shorthanded goals, so he can even again take over for Kerfoot on the PK.
And I mean, I was listening to the radio when this kind of they were all discussing the trade, and when kind of all the trades got into motion today. It was a longtime Chicago Blackhawks goaltender Scott Darling. He was talking about how goalies love, and obviously him being the goalie himself, he says goalies love playing in front or behind Jake McCabe, just because he brings so much to the table and he's willing to block shots, but he also get out of your way in those. And when he's supposed to, and he's just like a force to be reckoned with in front of the net. So at least they're getting a really physical guy, someone who's like, I think he's going to be really impactful in the playoffs. I think that's when you're going to see his true colors shine. And I think that's just the best bet, and kind of why Kyle Dubas made this deal as well. But while they were making that trade on the radio, while they were talking about that trade on the radio, that is, they also came out with this brand new trade that caught me off guard. And me and my dad looked at each other like, is this real? And I, of course, go to Twitter, and that confirms it. Rasmus Sandin. He is not a Toronto Maple Leafs anymore, guys. That one, a little bit interesting, just because he grew up with the Maple Leafs. He was in the system. He's kind of like your homeboy, homegrown talent that you kept putting water on, kept watering the plant. It was growing. I think it was growing. I don't think it hit the top of the ceiling by any means. I think his better years are way ahead of him. But the thing about him is, and Jared, you mentioned this a ton, is just that it doesn't really fit the Leafs mold right now. Like, it's unfortunate. You develop a guy like this, you put so much time and effort into it, you extend him too with a contract, and you don't get to see it happen in the future. This is where his best years were, and you he's just buried down that lineup. He gets traded to the Washington Capitals in exchange for another blue liner, Eric Gustafson, and a 2023 first round pick. This one's I don't know, guys. It's a heartfelt one. I felt the same way when Dermott left too. I think that one has a striking comparison. Even when Hyman signed his contract in Edmonton, very similar vibes. The inevitable. And I mean, I know you could control this situation. You could have kept him for sure, but is that the best for his development? Because as a general manager, that's what you're thinking of too. Is this best for the player's development? Is this best for the team's development? I think both kind of crossed them off. They're not. But Dom, I'll go to you. Thoughts on the deal? I know it's bittersweet. You're getting a good player in Eric Gustafson, a lot older. So there's an age gap there. There's a 22, I believe, year old. I believe, 22 years old for a 30-year-old. So there's that discrepancy there. And then you're also losing the first round pick, which they, I guess, got back.
Gustafson's also a rental.
That's another thing too. So like there's a lot of different things other than just Rasmus Sandin's not Toronto Maple Leafs anymore. So thoughts on the deal, and was this the right move for the Maple Leafs, or was this the inevitable? Where do you kind of gauge in between?
Yeah. I have a feeling Rasmus Sandin probably requested a trade a while ago. I'm not gonna lie. That probably is what happened. They were, in the contract dispute, and the inevitable happened. Man, it sucks because I really liked Sandin as a player. I think he was really good. But now you have, like I said on my TikTok, you have Morgan Riley, which I uploaded one. I don't know. I had so many thoughts in my head. I'm like, Mary, did you see?
No,
I
on the DSN TikTok.
I posted it myself. I was so I have so many thoughts that I need to get out. I sat here and made a TikTok. Anyways, I basically said Morgan Riley is going to be your power play quarterback the next 7 years. So there's stint number 1. He's not going to get in. He's probably never going to get in over Riley, Brody, Liljegren,
And Liljegren was the guy that they were comparing him to. Dubas it was either Sandin, Liljegren.
Yeah.
And today we saw who he chose better.
Yeah. And it's so unfortunate. I don't like this deal. I'm not gonna lie. I don't like the deal in a vacuum right now. I don't like. We got a first round pick, which is pretty good. He was a first round pick. We got a first round pick. Fine. Eric Gustafson. Don't let the numbers fool you, please. Please, please, please. There's a reason this guy has not played many games in the last few years. A lot of healthy scratching. He's not great. Okay, this year is kind of an outlier as well. Which fine. He'll be a depth defenseman. Like, don't expect him to add anything, even if he's on power play too. It really sucks. I don't have much else to say. It's unfortunate, and I don't think you can judge this deal until Friday, because that first round pick is a big player. I think they're going to use it to move someone. I don't think they're done. I think they're going to make a big move, and I think this is going to be part of it. Like, a domino had to fall. You got to give something to get something. So Rasmus Sandin is that.
The thing is, we were always talking leading up to the deadline about the future, sacrificing the future, whether that be picks or Matthew Knives. He was always circulating to that regard, sacrificing the future for a rental. Eric Gustafson's a rental, and I would also consider Sandin a future. He was part of the future plans with Toronto, whether he was buried or not. He was part of those future plans. Like, was this the right trigger to pull if you're Kyle Dubas to sacrifice the future for the rental? Jared, I'll go with you with that one.
I don't even know if it's necessarily that it was the right move for the Leafs. I think it was more an example of Dubas kind of doing right by his guy. And it started to get to a point where Sandin's timeline and the Leafs timeline were just way too far apart to even justify burying him in like a third pair position. It just wasn't right for his development whatsoever. And I think Dubas kind of considered, when he was considering which D-man is the odd man out, he's like, I kind of got to go with the one that has the most value, but also isn't helping my team as much this year. I kind of think that was what the decision-making process was. Because if you look at the way Sandin was playing this year, and I really like the guy, and I think he has a very bright future. I think he's going to be fantastic. But he was the odd man out when you look at this year's playoffs. I just could not picture a playoff series where Rasmus Sandin is starting in game 1. Like, it's not his fault. I think any young defenseman does this, but he makes way too many young defenseman mistakes. And when we're in win now mode, as you might call it, or all in mode, whatever you want to say, we can't afford those young kid mistakes on our D pair. And I just don't think he would have even gotten into the lineup. You might as well take his value and flip him for someone that will help you get someone else, or at least a defenseman like Eric Gustafson, which I am also in a similar boat when we're talking about McCabe. I'm not sure where he slots in. It'll be in a lower position than Jake McCabe, I'll tell you that. But the fact that we're getting at least a guy with some experience, someone who can move the puck decently well, this is a guy, when you compare the two, Rasmus Sandin and Eric Gustafson, Sandin has way more future potential, but today Gustafson's the one that has more experience. He's a more experienced D-man, and for that reason, is it something I'm going to be mad about in the future? Probably. Do I think it's going to be something that ages really bad? And we look at Rasmus Sandin being a superstar in Washington, or maybe not a superstar, but it'll be one of those Mason Marchment type guys where we look back on, damn, the Leafs gave him up right before he took off. I do. I think it actually may end up being like that because I really do believe in Rasmus Sandin, and I think he's going to be a great player. But from a combination standpoint of utilizing his value when it's at his highest, using his potential, but also doing right by the guy, I do understand the move, as sad about it as I am.
And I think Kyle Dubas kind of burned the bridge a while ago with Rasmus Sandin. When you sign a guy like Morgan Riley for that much, and for not for that much, but for that long, you're setting him in stone as that's the future, not even the future, really. The guy who's going to be with your team for the next little while. The guy, like you mentioned, Dom, was going to be quarterbacking that power play. No ifs, ands, or buts, because you're not paying a guy that much money to not do that. Then he goes out this past summer and offers Timothy Liljegren a contract and says, here you go. There you go. And you're going to be the guy I want over Rasmus Sandin. I think it was kind of just written on the wall, and now we just kind of saw it play through. It's unfortunate, and I mean, all teams have different molds. All teams have different directions. That's the thing about the Maple Leafs. When these guys were coming up, the team was still slowly getting out of the rebuild and in the immature stages of getting out of that rebuild. Like there was the Matthews coming in and all that jazz, and you knew that the projection of this team was really high. It was in the right direction. And just other guys came in, slotted in, were more effective, and it's kind of the way the cookie crumbles. I mean, it's unfortunate, and I think that's the discussion was inevitably we're going to have at one point or another. And lo and behold, it happens before the trade deadline, which is also in its way interesting in itself. Evan, you have any comments on the deal? And I mean, Eric Gustafson, the point totals are high this year, but it's a rental, so I mean, you're only really looking at this year if you end up going to re-sign him, but regardless, what are your thoughts on it on paper? And you're getting the first back too, which is also something that's it's pretty cool in itself.
Yeah, I mean, I think Jared said it best that you have to give up to get, or even Adama mentioned that too, and that just unfortunately it was Rasmus Sandin that had to be it. I see Eric Gustafson spending more time in the press box than I do on the ice. I don't really see, like, unless God forbid an injury happens to one or two defensemen, like I really don't see an avenue for Eric Gustafson to play. I think the reason why they targeted Eric Gustafson was just because of the fact he was a rental and they could kind of just dump him away, get a first, or even turn that first into God knows what in the next 72 hours. I feel bad for Sandin, but I do agree with Jared. I think Dubas did him right. The Washington Capitals, they have a very interesting defensive prospect pool coming up, and I think Sandin could definitely be. I don't know if he could be your number one or number two, but he could definitely be a solid number three as his career progresses. But he wasn't going to have that in Toronto, and I don't get Washington's game plan here. I don't understand it, but I don't know if you're going to use a first to replace Orlov. I guess Sandin is your best young bet who doesn't make a ton of money, and then who you can also maybe do like a Mikey Anderson deal where it's like 8 years at $4 million, and he's now your defenseman of the future.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of Orlov, he just scored his first goal as a Bruin on the first shot of the game.
Oh. Of course he did.
Lovely. Anyways, but yeah, Sandin is no longer a Toronto Maple Leaf. So yes, bask into that sadness until Eric Gustafson scores his first of the year first in a Leafs uniform, I guess, and then it'll kind of all go away. Feel nice. But
that's not the most Boston thing.
We do have two more trades to get to. I think this one is going to be pretty quick because they're really one for one trades. And there's not much depth in them. The one that caught me really by surprise, actually, they kind of both caught me by surprise, really. Engvall, he's an Islander now for a 3rd-round pick, and then another 3rd-round pick heads to Vancouver in exchange for Luke Shen. A bit of a minor deals. Luke Shen was always rumored to come to Toronto again and reunite with his former club. It finally happens. The thing I have with that is that where is he slotting in? Just because now you have so many defensemen in play. I get that you're bolstering your depth for the playoffs because guys obviously go down. And no, I'm just interested. That's the big thing with all these trades that were made today. Where do the guys that you got fit in? And I'm interested to see now. Keefe has all these tools at his disposal. How is he supposed to use them to hammer home a playoff winning team? That's my biggest question. But I guess we could decipher them both in the same time. Adamo, like Shen, he's coming back. Engvall, he's gone. It kind of feels like they're with the pick going there and coming back. Kind of feels like it's just a Engvall for Shen kind of thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, what are your thoughts there?
Again, I'll kind of reiterate what I already said in a previous video. I hate this Islanders deal. I hate it. This is Kyle Dubas' worst deal of the day. And it has nothing to do with the return. I was talking to someone on Twitter.
Yeah, I saw your Twitter.
And they were like, what do you mean? It's a good return. I'm like, yeah, it is. A 3rd-round pick for Engvall is fine. But why isn't it Kerfoot or Hall? Why are we giving away useful players that are making less money for free? Why? What did that do? I understand people don't like Engvall, but on every single line that Engvall's been on, he's had a positive impact. He can play every situation. He is tall. He is fast. He has a good shot. And fine, say all you want. He can't put it together. He's a 3rd liner. He's a versatile. He's better than Kerfoot. He's better than Hall. I know you can't compare. This just felt pointless. We gave away a good player for no reason. I don't get that. I don't get it.
Out. Yeah.
Why? Why was it Engvall? Is what I don't understand.
That's
the Shen deal was fine. Yeah. The Shen deal was fine.
We'll see Friday.
This was gonna happen. The Shen deal is it is the most whatever deal. Shen, sure, good player, shoots right, hits a lot, probably because he doesn't have the puck when he's on the ice. But whatever, guy, a big, strong hockey man. You know, I'm sure everyone over the age of 45 is gonna love it.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I feel like they made the Shen one just so the people who bought those jerseys way back when can actually rewear them now to the games, more blue and white.
He's not wearing the same number though.
That's interesting. Whatever did he wear?
Where is he? We don't know. 2.
I don't know what his number is, but McCabe basically stole his number. McCabe stole number 2.
Oh,
but he hasn't played yet, so like
they're gonna have a mean.
Do you think McCabe will give it up?
All I know is they already announced like Jake McCabe number 2. So
I know there's a rule in the NBA that you can't change your jersey number mid-season unless you're traded. So it's a weird, like, he hasn't played a game officially with it, but
that's an interesting wrinkle in the situation. That's the stuff we should be paying attention to. Not who's going where and who's coming where.
We got
the number on the back of their
jersey numbers.
Yeah.
Well, let's hope these players don't really work for themselves on the back, the name on the back, but more so the name on the front, because I think that'll do justice for the Maple Leafs heading into playoff time. Jared, I mean, quick thoughts here. You're getting Luke Shen. That's great. You're losing Pierre Engvall, which also, into Adamo's point too, is he going to be the lonesome odd man out? Like, you don't want to see that, because there's a lot of players that can deserve to go and take a hike, and Kerfoot would be one of them too. And I guess we'll get the answer on Friday when the trade deadline ends. I do believe Kerfoot's going to be gone. That's just my personal opinion. But
man,
thoughts on the deals.
How the hell did they survive today? Sorry, go on.
Well, really, what I was going to say is where I'm agreeing with Adamo is it should have, and everyone agrees with this, but it should have been Kerfoot. Kerfoot was so obviously, by anyone with eyes, he should have been the odd one out. So I don't know what the decision-making process was for Pierre Engvall. The only thing I'll say, I don't hate it just because, whatever, the 3rd-round pick I don't care about. It's more that we just freed up $2.2 whatever million of cap space, which then helps us make another move. So it's one of those situations.
The part I hate is that it could have been 3.5. Is
No,
before
I
But yeah,
absolutely
go
agree
on.
with you.
Go
Like
on.
it
Yeah.
should have been Kerfoot, no questions
Yeah.
asked. And I'm agreeing with you there.
Yeah.
I don't hate the fact that at the very least you're giving away a guy who didn't carry a big cap hit, but it's still $2 million is helpful when you're trying to free up space to get a guy. So I don't hate that. Where I will agree with Adamo though is even though I criticized the guy a lot because he's a very frustrating player because he was so obviously very skilled. Like you mentioned, he has the speed, he has the height. He never put it together, and it was more a lack of decision making. That was always the biggest thing.
Yeah,
He just
that's fair.
didn't know what to do on the ice half the time. And he was a very frustrating player to watch, but I still think he should have had a little bit more value if you were going to trade him to at least get something else for him. But at the end of the day, it's one of those harmless deals where it's whatever. We got a third round pick back and freed up enough cap space that we could do something interesting. So mad about it, probably not mad about it as much as Adamo, just because like, yeah, obviously he was able to play fine shorthanded. He was fine 5-on-5, but he was very fine for me. I never loved the guy. Take that for what it is because like I'm not a very analytical advanced stats guy, so I don't know exactly what all his numbers were. I just know from visually watching him as a Leafs fan, he frustrated me, and I'm not gonna hate seeing him go, but it's one of those things where it's just kind of whatever. Where I will say I'm actually pretty excited is getting Luke Shen. It's very boomerish, I know, but it's like, okay, we want to get more physical. Well, we're getting the NHL's leader in hits.
Yeah.
And yes, that has to do with him being on Vancouver. They are a team that did not have the puck a lot whatsoever. So sure enough, a guy on that team leads the NHL in hits. But whatever, he's a guy that I don't think he'll. It's possible they'll try to do the Quinn Hughes thing and put him with Morgan Riley. I don't see him pushing so many guys down and being our top pairing defenseman. So I personally don't think that's what's going to happen. But no matter what, I'm happy to see Luke Shen back. So these are very much deals that I'm fine with. I'm very interested to see in the case of Engvall though what that cap space turns into because I think that'll be the most definitive thing to decide whether this is a good deal or not. If it does end up turning into nothing and it's not gonna happen. We're gonna do something else. But let's say we don't, and we just now wasted $2 million just to get this guy out of town. Then I'll be frustrated because it's like we're a better team with Engvall than without him.
Mm-hmm. Evan, I mean, close off the discussion here. Last trade of the day. I mean, it's only 9:30. I don't even know this is the last trade of the day. To be honest with you, this guy Dubas likes to ring the phone whenever. But
we'll get a call at 2 in the morning.
Last trade we're going to discuss on the show. Any thoughts?
Yeah, with the Engvall deal, I just think the one thing that might be the Charlie horse is just the fact that like maybe you just couldn't even trade Kerfoot. Like, let's be honest here.
It's possible.
Like we're not like GMs aren't stupid. Like they know that Alex Kerfoot is as useful on the ice as I am in the NHL. Like he's just like I don't think he's
the
tradable.
Swiss Army knife, Evan, is the word.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't think he's tradable.
Yeah,
wait, I wasn't finished yet.
Okay.
I said he's definitely tradable if you package him with something, but I don't think you can. I don't know if you would have gotten a third just straight up for Kerfoot.
Probably not.
He's just not as good. And then you use that third round pick to get Luke Shen. And I said to Jared last night, like the Vancouver Canucks were contemplating whether to trade Luke Shen or not, because like as Elliot Friedman said, like it's gonna take a high draft pick. And I was looking at the Maple Leafs draft picks like throughout the next couple of years. They didn't have a third in 2024 when they like the pick that they got from New York, because that's what they used for Colin Blackwell and Mark Giordano. So maybe they figured, look, if we want to get Luke Shen, unfortunately, kind of like with Sandin and getting a first round back, we're going to have to trade Engvall. It's going to get us this phenomenal defenseman who's going to light up anyone not wearing a Maple Leaf. And it's going to work out. I just, I was just looking at like the Maple Leafs don't have a lot of draft picks. They really, in the next 2 years, I just like in this upcoming draft, they have 3 picks. And the third one is the 2023 first from Boston. That's probably not even going to be there come June.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, lots of things to unpack with these deals. You want to add one more thing, Jared?
Yeah, the only thing I'll add, I was curious, so I just looked up Kerfoot's cap friendly. I didn't realize, but he does have a no move clause, so maybe that does
really.
Who gave him a no move?
Why?
He's a 10-team no trade list. I actually didn't remember that, but I just looked it up.
Who gave him that?
Maybe that is part of the reason why they decided Engvall over Kerfoot because it's just
I guess it's
like,
easier to trade him so you don't have to deal with the BS
Exactly.
of giving this guy the
This
privilege.
guy
to decide.
Kerfoot better step up. Holy cow.
Because it's
Oh,
not even a
God.
matter of him like not being able to waive the no move clause, but it's if you're saying, oh, no team would take him, that isn't true. The thing is, the teams that would take him are 100% the teams that are on his list because it'll just be, yeah, I'm sure you could call up Arizona and be like, hey, take this guy. And they're like, oh, sure, more money to waste on. Great.
Yeah.
But he definitely put those teams on his clause. So that does make it a lot harder to trade him. I guess that's why you decide to go Engvall above him, but it's still just a frustrating one.
And the thing that we saw today with Sandin, of course, is that Dubas comes in, adds a lot of defensemen, and then obviously inevitably out comes Sandin. He just doesn't fit there anymore. I think we might see that in the same way if they go that way on the offensive side of things, where you keep adding more offensive pieces, guys who are better and more serviceable than Kerfoot. He's going to be the guy who's they have to get rid of just because he doesn't fit the mold anymore. Because if you look, he was started as a second liner this year. He's down to the fourth, and many nights can show that he is almost a healthy scratch at that point. So he's kind of the pressure is on him, not just in the playoffs if he were to stay till then, but the rest of the regular season. This guy, it's been a really tough year for him, and he has paid the price in the lineup as a result. He might pay the price in the Leafs uniform as a result. Again, we'll have to see Friday. Friday's a big day, guys. It's kind of what ties all our thoughts together. These thoughts kind of don't mean much until we figure out if even these guys on the team are going to play a game in a Leafs uniform. Are they even going to be a part of other deals? We don't know. Kyle Dubas is a random guy. He makes weird trades at weird times of the day and when you would least expect it. So that'll just be a fun Friday, more fuel to the flame of while we're watching the trade deadline and keeping track about it. And just what they have left to get. It's going to be fun. It's going to be really fun. But yeah, that'll do it for this episode of the Leafs Line podcast. Again, I am your host, Mario Russo, Evan Davis, Jared Rotenberg, and Don Romoli joined me like always for the show. Yeah, we'll probably get another episode up next week, just outlining all the other teams. There's been a lot of action leading up to the deadline, and probably a lot more bigger news than the Toronto Maple Leafs have made so far. The Patrick Kane one really strikes my eye. And we never even talked about the Vladimir Tarasenko one either. Like the Rangers, that team is
that power play unit.
Yeah,
the
man.
arms race. It's the whole arms race in the East right now. It's just crazy.
And I think that's a discussion in itself too, not for today, but definitely in the near future. The way the playoffs are formatting and just why does one of the better teams in the league have to be knocked out in the first round? It's just just a little bit ridiculous. But again, that does it for us. Thank you for tuning into this episode of the Leafs Line podcast. We'll catch you on the next show. Take care.